Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Mental Game Live. We're here between Christmas and New Year's, and I'm getting ready to leave to go to Pasadena to catch up with my Alabama Crimson Tide football family, catch a flight here after this call, and get ready to have a good time. Hopefully we'll get some work done out in the West Coast. Big game, big weekend. Bash, how you doing? You guys have a great weekend? Great holiday?
Yeah, it's been good.
It's a little different with youngins.
Yeah, there's a little bit more excitement. And
what time did y'all wake up Christmas morning?
I was actually proud of them. About 6:30. So
okay.
So it's actually we call that sleeping in.
Yes, that was good.
Yeah,
well, with adult kids, I think we did presents at 10 a.m.
Oh, nice. That's like lunchtime for us.
Lunchtime.
Yeah, day's over by 10 a.m.
Well, I'm excited about today's call, and we got Willy Wilcox on. Let's bring him on up. Willy is I've known Willy forever, and Birmingham legend, and I know he's in town right now and enjoying the holidays. Willy, thanks for joining us, and we're going to talk some good stuff today.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me. I'm honored. It was cool to see Michael Phelps in the intro. I'm definitely not in that category, but thanks.
Well, you guys have a little bit of similarities, don't you? I mean,
what's that?
A little bit of similarities. I mean, you guys have both dealt with some on the
That's
taboo
true.
sides of performance a little bit.
Yeah, he kind of caught the front end of that whole deal. I remember when they really demonized him when he got caught, smoking some pot. But anyways, thanks for having me, and this is cool. What a neat thing you have going here.
Well, I appreciate it. I wanted to get you on for a couple of reasons. One is obviously your story, people know it, but I want to talk about it a little bit as much as you want to. But also I want to talk about one of the things I always loved about watching you play was your creativity. And you're one of the and your Instagram videos you've been posting from the holidays are very creative.
Yeah, thanks.
Talk to me a little bit as a player, as a PGA Tour player. When was the last tournament? When was the last one you played?
The last PGA Tour event was Wyndham of 17, but I played a Korn Ferry event. I guess I technically played one in 22. I wouldn't say what I did was golf, but I did play a Korn Ferry event in 22.
But now, as a caddy for one of the top players in the world, that's got to be. I mean, does that creativity still come in there, or are you much more focused on the structure of the organization?
I would say Sungjae's kind of a, I don't want to say like a one-shot pony, but he's a straight ball hitter. He's 0-0-0, and I can change like the spin rate and
You're like a
stuff and hit.
Watson.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, if I was a little bit taller, maybe I could hit it that far. But Sungjae, it's pretty awesome because sometimes when we're like in the woods or he's got to hit, a cool little like cut or hook or something, he actually in the practice rounds or the pro-ams, very rarely is he in the woods. But when he is, he hand me the club or he'd say, "What would you hit from here? What kind of shot shape would you choose?" In his best English, and it's pretty neat for him to do that, and I'm really flattered, and I love to hit these little cut shots, and then he'll do one, and he can pull them all off, but he just doesn't really see it that way.
He doesn't see it that way. Have you always seen it that way?
Yeah, I did. I grew up at a short, like low pine trees in Pell City there, so they didn't trim the lower limbs. So the only thing that I saw if you were a little out of position was to hit it like knee high and hit a little shot like that. So that's just the way I grew up playing, and it was super short, tight, and had a lot of dog legs. So I just kind of grew up playing that way.
So straight balls just bore you probably to death.
Yeah, I just don't see those types of lines at all. I'm trying to get there, but I mean, when I had my best years on tour, I was aiming 50, 60 yards left. I mean, it depends on how far I was from the green, but on a tee ball, I could damn near be standing like side saddle to it, which it was just all feel. I would say I was just, other than the 2-year period where I played well on the PGA Tour, I was just in like search mode the entire time.
Let's talk about that because that's what we see so many colleagues and people that, we see out there. They're on search mode. Juniors are on search mode. College players are in search mode. When you get into search death, right, and you're out there hunting for the treasure, I was there as a pitcher, but what does it feel like as a golfer?
It's pretty empty feeling, especially when when you're paying your bills by hitting a golf ball and it's not going well. And I mean, I had a lot of other things going on in my life that made my mental spiral be even worse. But searching is brutal, and now with all the the little cool cell phone things that you can put behind you down the line and on the range, there's so many different ways to video your swing. And back in my day, it was just grab it and hit it and see what happened. And so, like I played with a kid at Greystone the other day that just joined out there, and he makes 2 or 3 swings and he goes back and, he analyzes the swings. And I'm like, hey man, your swing's looking great, but just try to play a little more golf swing, or no, play a little more golf as opposed to golf swing. So.
Does that just frustrate you to see that?
Yeah, I mean, because he's really showing some nice momentum and that he's starting to play better. He's only been playing for a couple of years, but I'm just like, the angles, as long as you got that good 18-inch area where the club face stays somewhat square through impact, then you're good. And when you get people that just fall into that perfect backswing thing, everybody's like, I want the perfect angles on the backswing. Well, on the way down is more important. So when you get in search mode, it just feels, the game certainly is a lot less fun.
One of our buddies from Birmingham, Smiley Kaufman, had Max Homa on his podcast, and he said something that was brilliant. It's 2 guys that had hit the skids in their games, right? And Smiley asked Max, what would you do different going back? He said, I'd hit different shots on the range versus angles, positions.
Mm-hmm.
And those are 2 guys that have been in swing hell, right? They lost it.
Oh yeah.
Smiley had a great question: who would have won between the 2 of us when we were both on the skids? And Max is like the pro shop because they would have sold more golf balls. But we've been there.
I love how candid he's been.
I mean, I lost my mechanics as a pitcher, and I never once thought make it curve more. Like I was like, if I could just fix this one problem, and I feel like that's where juniors get so lost, and coaches and parents. It's like, if I can just fix this swing versus what you're talking about is how do I curve it? I mean, maybe the golf ball and the driver and all that makes it a little harder to do it, but people play if I fix this, then I can play good versus play good regardless, right?
And it just comes down to, like, I think your setup needs to be just consistent. It doesn't have to look perfect or anything like that. But I look at a guy like Billy Horschel, who's so regimented about what he does. And I mean, he like scoots into that ball like he's trying to sneak up on it when he's putting, and it comes down to, you just got to have the fundamentals. And the kids, I think a lot of them just get bogged down into looking too much like their favorite player on TV, because you're just you get so much video and so much content. I mean, I think you need to pull up some Lee Trevino Chronicles and just see what he's doing. I think looking at the older swings, seems like everything, even when it comes to like fashion, is going more retro and more old school. I think maybe not golf, but I think they should really study swings from 30 years ago and see what happens, because that's just a more creative, fun way to think about the game. And yeah, getting bogged down and looking like perfection is just going to drive you crazy.
Well, even you're talking about like Billy. I mean, even Billy says, we were getting on the range after a miscut at the British, and he's like, I just got to hit golf shots. And then he goes off on a pretty great run right after that. Like, it's one of those things that hits us, and we're all like, dumbass, I know that. I know that. Yeah,
it's like, and how to hit the shot for the most part, especially a player at that level. So yeah, it's just, I'm sure when he goes back to playing golf and slows down his technical, pursuit, I bet he finds the magic.
Yeah. As a tour caddy now, right? I mean, you've had success. I got to figure out how this happened though, because the story is that like Sungjae found you on the parking lot, but really, how did you start? Who did you start caddying for? And you were caddying for USAM, right?
Long time. Oh yeah. Well, the initial one, I got lucky with really it was COVID. So over COVID, I got the shots, so I was allowed to go to Bermuda, and Russell Knox was making a change, so he was just like, hey, Will, I bet you're bored. My career had just ended, and I was like, I am bored. And so he said, you want to come to Bermuda? I was like, heck yeah. And he finished 12th. So, that was really, really cool to watch him play so well in such brutal conditions in 21. And so I had that under my belt. So, I've caddied it. I think that was my first one. So it was a good finish, good stuff. And then Lonto gave me the nod to work 5 events on the West Coast. But the U.S. Amateur was huge. When I was just going to a concert at Madison Square Garden, and I had that trip booked months before. And then Ben qualified for the AM and just randomly said, do you want to caddy? I had no idea. It was just right across the river in Jersey. And I was like, absolutely, I do. And then Ben, I mean, he was always a great player and will be a great player. But that week was something special. I mean, when it came to one kick from OB into play, and he ended up making match play by 2 shots, and then just railroading the first guy or whatever you call it, beat him 7-6, and just he gained momentum. Won a couple matches on the 19th hole, and then I'm all over the TV, and I wasn't a big fan of how they talked about me a ton, as opposed to Ben. I was trying to, I wanted everything to be on Ben, but I heard that they were mentioning my name a lot, which I guess they've seen me more than Ben at that point. But I had to, by the end of the week, I was like, talk to Ben.
You do have a pretty famous hole.
Yes, that was a big one. But yes, I would say the Ben Carr second place at the U.S. Open was what kind of catapulted me into people's eye line. They're like, oh, this guy's looping.
Yeah. So then you on tour, you'd obviously caddied for your good friend Lanto, and then, and who were you caddying for before Sungjae, or how did that happen?
It was Lonto to Ben at the U.S. Open.
Okay, Ben at the US Open.
Yeah, and they didn't give me the nod for the Masters, and I played it cool. And so they asked me if I wanted to. They brought a legend, Coop, in there. He'd been around that place 1,000 times, I understand. But they said, "Do you want to go to LACC?" I was like, "Absolutely." And then I get over there. Ben makes the cut. Sungjae didn't make the cut. And then when I'm putting Ben's clubs in his locker, right next to his locker at about 2 p.m., Sungjae's going in on Saturday to grab his stuff and get out of town. And I guess he'd already Instagram messaged me while we were on the golf course, because I'd seen him earlier in the week. I got paired with him a couple times on the Corn Ferry Tour, so he already knew my golf game. And then I guess he was about to make a change caddy-wise. And I've always had a thing where I'm more of a fan of Sungjae. I never was like, I'm competing against Sungjae. You know what I mean? Even if I was in the same tournament, I was like, this is not a competition. So I'm just a big fan.
You knew he was.
Oh man, yeah. And when I got paired with him on Sunday of the event in the Bahamas that he won by 6, I mean, it was some next level golf, and he was just so calm. He was just born to do it. But then he just stopped me. He said, "Willie, are you caddying?" I said, "Yeah, I'm caddying." And he said, "Well, you caddying for me," and that was it.
Not a question. You caddying for me.
Mm-hmm. I said, "I'll see you in Connecticut."
Do you enjoy the caddying?
Very much, very much. That's the regimented. I'm not my own boss, which I really, really like. I've always been my own boss, if you could even call it that. I was the worst boss of all time. I didn't crack the whip at all on myself. So I like them saying you have to be at the golf course at this time. You have to do A, B, and C before the round. So I've never had so much, not pressure, but I just love that regimen. I wish I could have had that as a player.
I mean, there's several former tour players that are caddies. I mean, Paul Torrey and Travis Perkins, and who else? I mean, there's a handful.
Well, I mean, JJ Jakovic had a decent career in college, and Brian Vranish was on tour. Danny Saul, Don Donatello was pretty good. Rest in peace to Lance Tenbrook. He was a good one.
Yeah, he was.
So yeah.
Okay. So for you, I mean, does that give you that structure that you missed as a player, though? Like,
for sure. And in hindsight, I know what it requires. So I know what he does is the right thing. And at the time when I was young, I just didn't know any better. I just was like, I'll get to the course whenever. I mean, my last year on the Corn Ferry Tour, I bet I hit balls before a round, like a competition round, like a handful of times.
Really?
I would just, I mean, if I was 20 minutes from the golf course where I was staying, and this is just because my life was spiraling and I was just sleepy all the time. But if I was 20 minutes from the golf course, I remember I teed off at like 6:51 in Savannah one year, and I pulled into the parking lot as my I mean, I had to go straight to the tee, and that happened a bunch, which is nothing to emulate or be proud of. But I just like how if Sungjae tees off at 7:30, I mean, I'm getting there at 5:30 at the absolute latest.
Mm-hmm. It's funny how that kind of works, isn't it? Like
Yeah, I mean, just
we're not
with
our best. We're not our best advocates.
I know it, and just had so little self-respect. And when you're in that golf searching phase, not playing well, you get kind of you lower your self-worth. Like I just, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, you're not going to play good anyways. What's the point of hitting balls? Now every day I go out there, and anytime Sungjae does something, you got to know the right time to say things. But it's just kind of like, I mean, I wish I would have had somebody being like, you know how good you are, right? And
yeah, but isn't that funny that we knew, like on the outside, we all knew that.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've never been more miserable than I would say 2017 through. Well, it really started in 16, but I was just a walking sad face, which is pitiful. But when that's your only perspective, you just don't know any better. And so when you start going down that I'm playing poorly thing, you just think, well, I'm not as good of a person as well.
Do you think if you don't mind talking about this, because I mean, your story is well documented. I appreciate your openness to talk about it. Do you think that you sabotage because there's a fear of not living up to talent?
I mean, mine was more of mine was just this. I'm pretty darn sure that I was like self-medicating because I still have that type of thought process. Like I played in a pro-am in Jupiter a few weeks ago, and I was on that first tee, and there's like a DJ on the tee, and there's like probably 50 people, and I'm out there like this, and I realized like, oh, I'm not high. Like, I mean, when I was high before, I could just, I'd play with Jason Day, and I'd walk out on that tee confident as can be, which is false confidence, and that's why it eventually turns on you. But when it worked, it really, really worked well because I was able to block out all that extra noise. It's like an internal monologue that I could never stop, and then I would sweat, and then the ground, I'd lose my balance. So yeah, it was a mess.
How many? You're documenting. You were a downer guy, right?
Yes.
Uppers were not your thing. I could tell by talking to you, uppers are not going to be your thing. Right?
No.
But downers were your thing. That was to calm you down, to bring you back.
Mm-hmm.
You're a high energy. You run hot, right? Your mind is
Big
probably
time,
running 1,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, and I've been able to quiet that down, luckily, in the last year or so. But yes, for sure.
Yeah. So when you would go out to a golf course, when you would play, the adrenaline would spike. How much would you take during the course of a round to get through?
I mean, it just depends. It depends on, how I was weaving the maze of drug test avoidance. Sometimes I just couldn't do it. But I mean, I definitely, since Xanax and hydrocodone were allowed, I would take as many as, I mean, the year in 2014, my rookie year, I was probably taking, I know what I took. I took 6 in the morning, and then I would take 2 Xanax bars, 2 milligrams. Yeah, and then I would have 2 24-ounce Bud Lights, and then I would take 6 on the back 9. And obviously I couldn't have any beers, but I'd take more Xanax. And then at the end of the round, I'd probably have 8 beers and probably a handful more. And I did that until my organs were in such pain that I had to stop. And then I started playing like crap. And then I got clean and was the #1 ball striker on the PGA Tour the next year.
Yeah, you were, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, right? I mean, what our self-image is oftentimes false.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I always said, which is so stupid, but I was always like, I'm going to have my cake and eat it too. I'm going to make millions of dollars playing golf, and I'm going to party. And in my brain, I thought, does it get any better than that? You know what I mean? Which is so stupid. But this is 10 years ago as well.
Do people come up to you on tour to talk about their own struggles? Are you one of those guys that you tend to be the sponge?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, it's normally like caddies that have, and players too, actually. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people had either they knew somebody or have personally struggled with it. And I don't necessarily, I mean, I released the story. I don't necessarily want to be that shoulder to cry on, but I will I will chat about it, and just more like I just want to be like, well, I hope you're better, or I hope you're feeling good. And generally they got some sort of strength from some other source, but yeah, I definitely get it's less and less and less, which I like. But there is a lot. There was a lot of that for the first 18 months, and then now it's kind of like, you look good, man, keep going, that type of stuff.
Do you feel like serving somebody is more of your strength?
I'm a follower. I am a follower. Absolutely. Absolutely. At my entire life, I've been what my parents called a bad decision maker, but that was just because I followed people. If they were going to, if what our parents used to say, jump off a bridge, would you do that? Yeah, I would. And did, but it was into the lake. So it's just a trip. I am a follower, and I've always been that way. I'm sure maybe I'll be a leader one day with all my perspective I've gained. But yeah, I like the
I think you probably lead more than you realize.
Who knows? I don't know. I try to I'm just one foot in front of the other, and I'm just glad to not be in a damn ditch somewhere.
Well, we're glad you're not in a ditch too. When you, what like goals do you have now? Like you lived burning a candle at both ends, playing at the top, but also, I mean, there's, Basham and I come from the baseball world. That lifestyle was very common in the baseball world in the 70s and the 80s. I mean, there's a Doc Ellis being high on LSD and throwing a perfect game, right?
Yeah.
Oil can
Darryl Strawberry,
where he was and getting lost on the way to the ballpark that he was he'd played for forever. And, the epic stories in clubhouses of the amount of drinking that happened, stuff like that. But baseball has kind of, it's for the most part cleaned up because players look like freaking Terminators out there now. What are your visions and goals? Like, do you just kind of like, it's a day by day thing?
Yeah, I would say I'm a little too scatterbrained for goals. But I mean, I'm enjoying this part of life. As an adult, I've never been clean for this amount of time. I started doing all that crazy stuff when I was 13 years old. So I'm just looking forward to seeing what happens next. I mean, I'm 175 pounds. That's 40 pounds heavier than I was when I was on tour. So it's just,
you were
the way
135 pounds on tour.
137 when I got my card. I'd say like in 15, I was probably like high 140s, because I remember being the same weight as Chesson, and Chesson was 6'4". So I was like, well, I'm 6 feet, 145. So I guess I'm doing all right. But now he's filled out. What's that?
I was in 8th grade. Holy God.
Yeah. You're a big baseball fella though, and I just was always I think I bet I'd be 200 pounds now had I never done all that stuff. But I really just stunted my growth mentally and physically as an adult. So now it's interesting to like actually become one, and now I can actually think clearly. And like I'm getting ready to go to Maui right now. Like I would have done that tomorrow morning at like 5 a.m. and been like losing my mind. So it's nice to have my ducks in a row a little bit more.
What do you do? Like, I mean, do you like? I get the sense like you going to Maui, standing up on that hill on 17 is it's probably like a soul recharger for you. What do you do to recharge
in life? I mean, I do so much activity. Like I basically just play tons of golf. I love going to the beach. Listening to music, definitely a lot of music, but I sleep a ton now. Now that I actually get natural sleep, I've never gotten natural sleep before. Like this is a whole new life to me. So I sleep a lot. I mean, not a lot. I'm up by probably 6, or 5:30, but I'm in bed at 7:30 just because I do so much physical activity that I just crash at night, which is a good thing. But yeah, when it comes to recharging, I just listen to some tunes. I like to just organize my stuff. I like to clean my little area. It's very just kind of like military, like I think.
that regimen keeps you focused?
Yeah, yeah, and I just like to. I don't like to stay up late just because, like everybody always says, nothing good happens after midnight, anyways. So I just like to. And I mean, honestly, all my friends that I developed as a younger dude are all gone now. So I'm really just kind of a one man show until Sungjae tells me what to do, and yeah, I just float around like I'm going to play Country Club of Birmingham in 45-degree temperatures here in a little while. So
You do. I mean, do you enjoy golf now, playing more than you ever have?
way, way, way more. Yeah, yeah. I've never had the ability to think about it the way I do now. And I mean, I started hitting it like crap in 2016, and then I kind of found it again in 18. But I figured out my golf swing in probably like 60, 90 days of getting my head clear. So, I mean, I think if I would have gotten my head clear 10 years ago, I would have figured it out really, really fast, and I think I'd still be on tour. But
Do you
yeah,
want?
golf is
Do you
like,
have any dreams of wanting to get back out on tour, or are you like, I love caddying?
I think I'm going to get some exemptions in the next couple of years into, like a Wichita on the Corn Ferry Tour or something like that. And I would absolutely love to do that. That would be really cool. But when it comes to like yesterday, I played Inverness with my buddies, and I'm out there. I hit it inside 10 feet a lot more times than I expected to, and didn't make any of them. And if I was playing professionally, that would have stressed me out. I would have been like, we got to figure this out. Maybe I need to change putters. Then the spiral starts. So I want to play events here and there. I think I'm good enough to still compete, but I don't have any delusions that I'm as good as these kids that are coming up. I mean, they're nasty. I love watching Sargent and Nick Dunlap and Ben Carr. They're all just so polished. They're a lot stronger than we were. It seems like they look like baseball players, or they're a lot of big fellas.
A lot of big fellas, big feet, big swings.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing the epicenter of Birmingham golf now, isn't it?
Yeah, I missed it.
I mean, it's crazy.
I mean, it's affordable. It's easy to travel out of. Now these golf courses are starting to welcome these guys, which is awesome. Because Shoal was like doors closed to pros for many years, and Greystone was, it was like me, the Osbornes, Gary, on the English fella on the Golf Channel, Gary. Yeah, Gary Christian. And so, yeah, for the longest time. Then in 2014, when Mark got that job, it just became a hotbed. And I mean, you got Kevin Chappell. He was coming out there then. Now Max Homa. Now we got the #1 swing coach in the world. And I mean, I assume I see you every week too. I mean, I'm sure your whole platform and everything is a big deal and brings people to Birmingham as well. So yeah, I mean, what a cool deal. You got Sep and it's just a neat environment. I kind of wish I was still here grinding with these guys, but they're 10 years plus younger than me. So I'll just play with them when I come home.
And beat them.
Yeah, right.
You take strokes
sometimes. No, I'll play everybody straight up. I like to think I have it. When you play from 7,000 yards at Greystone, Founders, or Legacy, I think anybody has a kind of a chance. I'd say Sep has a bit of an advantage because he's just so dang good, but yeah, it's straight up across the board. And I think it's 50-50 when I play those big names.
And when you go out to Maui, will you go out and play around over there? Will you go to like,
I hope so. I was texting Danny Saul, Corey Connor's caddy, and apparently we are playing on Sunday. So if not, I'll just go mosey around Kapalua. But yeah, I tried to ask Sungjae if he was going to play on Sunday to try to nudge and invite, but he was just kind of like, I don't think the translation worked out, but he was like, haha, see you in Maui. I was like, I'll ask him when he gets there.
Gotcha.
So but it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, no, it's great. My favorite restaurant, one of my favorite restaurants in the world, is a place called Monkey Pod. Since you're going to be up in are you staying up near Kapalua, Kaanapali?
Yeah, I got an Airbnb a couple miles from the course.
Okay, so it's in Whalers Village down in Kaanapali. It's called Monkey Pod. The best food. Is it a long drive or short drive? No,
or?
20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Nice. I mean, I have no frame of reference down there. If it's a big island, small island, I don't know.
Okay, so have you ever been to Maui?
No, just Oahu.
Oh, okay. So Maui's, you're going to be up on the northwest side. You'll stay up there. And then further south of that is where Lahaina, where all those fires were. So you probably won't go much further south. So there's a little town called Whalers Village. It's 10 minutes from where you are. And
Unreal.
there's like an outdoor mall. Everything's outdoor there, right? And so I'll text it to you. It's a place called Monkey Pod. Best food. Get the strawberry.
Well, I will check it out. I'm gonna write that down actually right now. But I'm just gonna wander around the island. I'm just blown away that I got the invite, and I just, every week that I get to caddy for him is just such a dream. So I hope we can keep it rolling. And I think he's been chasing a little distance in Korea too. So maybe he's got a couple more yards. Not that I think he needed to do that, but I can just tell he's doing that.
Yeah. What do you get a sense of as a tour player? What's going on in the tour world right now?
In the tour player world?
Yeah, I mean with PIF and the tour and all the other stuff. I'm not asking you to make a controversial statement, but I'm just as a player. I mean, you're still a player. You still see things as a player. What do you see the world right now in golf? I mean, I just saw they extended the deadline for Augusta.
I mean, just all these amendments, it just is changing every single day. And, I'm close to guys that are in the category that aren't in these. So I feel like I sometimes think, man, I kind of missed the boat here because, you can't fault any of these players, obviously. No. I mean, I guess maybe you could the players are just, I don't think they're going to be vilified too badly unless they, say something that's not recommended. But it's a wild scene out there. I mean, I want to see everybody playing against each other. That's for sure. And I miss Brooks and all the players out there. What a weird time. And it's definitely got golf in the news a lot. And, the landscape of it is changing like every week with all the amendments to the points and the availability for the tournaments, and so it's definitely it'll be interesting viewing. And now you got these unbelievably strong fields, which was their goal, but it just feels like with the Saudi influence. I mean, they love Formula One and stuff. I wonder if they're trying to just make it a much smaller group because they only want to see those top players. Because whatever, in Formula One, there's only like 15 of them or something.
Yeah, they don't have a chance. I want to ask you one more question and kind of roll back to your previous life, but in a way, we have a lot of kids that watch this and a lot of parents. And obviously mental health is a huge platform for me as a clinician. You've been in the depths. What message would you give kids that are struggling either with their mental health, vaping addiction, stuff like that? I mean, vaping is so big. What would you recommend to them? Because when I talk to you, one of the things that always hits me is somebody who's clean now. I always love people who've gone through those depths. I've said this many times because there's an openness and a vulnerability to it that is so powerful. What would you tell those kids that might be kind of struggling with their own demon?
The start of the question, I'd like to give a good answer to this. The start of the question got broken up. I'm sure you can summarize it into a pretty small thing, but there was a little breakup in the connection there.
I'll repeat the question.
Could you say the question one more time?
Yeah. So as somebody who's been at the bottom, who's dealt with their own demons, there's so many kids out there that are struggling and may have something that they're hiding, whether it's smoking too much weed, vaping too much, downing too many drinks, and they're fighting this. And when people are in recovery, they're so vulnerable and they're open, and that strength is so engaging. So what would you tell somebody who's in that situation right now, who's maybe struggling with something they're trying to suppress and they're embarrassed or frustrated or whatever? Oh, did I lose you? Oh no, lost you. Hold on, Willie. Here we come. Here we are.
Okay. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So if honestly, yes, if you could repeat it, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, I'm gonna ask it again. As somebody who's been in the depths and you were at the bottom and you were hitting rock bottom,
Mhm.
there are a lot of kids out there. There are a lot of
Mhm.
coaches. There are a lot of people who are struggling with their own shit. Okay. What would you tell
Yep.
people having been there?
I mean, there's just so many people in this country now, and the drug problem and addiction and admitting it, and everything is so conflicted in what's going on. I mean, and if the people that you answer to, or they're your guardians or whatever's going on, are the stigma that they tie to it is that of you're less than, you're worthless. This kid's never going to kind of come out of this, and you just got to keep all that. You just somehow, it's very hard to have perspective as a young person, but I mean, you just need to be a little more. Need to be easier on yourself. You need to cut yourself some slack. You need to realize that what's going on in the world is extremely dangerous. Like this fentanyl stuff, like I definitely wouldn't be alive if this was going on when
Yeah,
I was younger. Like what we got was actually pretty groovy. But now now you can die so quickly, and that's what these parents have to worry about, is just getting the wrong thing. And between all the, I don't know, just it's getting inebriated in America is a very touchy, weird thing. They're shoving alcohol down your throat, but if you have too much of it and maybe say something you shouldn't, then you're worthless, and how dare you? We're going to kick you out of the club because we overserved you. It's just a really weird culture around drugs and alcohol, especially in the Southeast. And you got to find somebody who you can trust to talk to about it. You need to be honest about it. Hiding it can just make the problem even worse. And I like to think a lot of these kids are self-medicating as well, because there's so much stimulation in positive and negative ways on social media, and it's just upsetting to know that some kids are struggling internally, and I think their self-worth is so just deteriorating each year as it goes by. I mean, when I look on social media, until recently, I mean, it's being, if, well, better way to say it, if I was 15 years old and I had access to social media like I do now, which I know they all do that are the younger generation, I would feel pretty worthless. I don't know. I'd be like, look how much cool stuff these people are doing. And I think that contributes to all this kind of lack of self-worth stuff. I could go on for a while, but I just think we got to be more open about it, especially in areas like Birmingham. I think these kids are very much silently struggling in an area like this. I think a place like California or somewhere a little more, liberal,
Yeah.
I don't want to say accepting, but yeah, it's just, you can't vilify somebody that's that young or whatever, or even if they're 50 or 40. We're all humans. We all have all these toxins being thrown at us every day, and some people choose to gamble on baseball. Some people choose to pick up a beer, but everybody's struggling in their own way. Like I have friends that have tons of money, but they're sitting in a 5-star hotel in Paris right now, feeling sorry for themselves. So everybody's got their own demons, and we just got to be more open about it.
You said the key word, self-worth.
Yeah, self-worth is huge. You got to love yourself, because you only have one person.
Yeah. And it's amazing how we sabotage ourselves, we attack ourselves, we punish ourselves because we feel we're less than, and yet we measure ourselves against an unrealistic standard. It's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
It's a moving
Yeah,
target.
it is, and I don't think it's necessarily getting any better or easier, but I think the stigma around drugs and alcohol is definitely, dropping a little bit. But everybody, they're fighting their own demons. I mean, my poison was opiates. But in areas like this, if even if you smoke a little bit of grass around here, like, I mean, you get thrown in jail. So it's just a thing where, yeah, I feel particularly sorry, and I feel like the kids around here are super vulnerable, and hopefully they can, it'd be nice to start hearing some success stories out of the town I'm from, but I haven't heard too many in the last couple of years.
Well, I mean, I think what messages like what you share, which is, listen, guys, I mean, you're open and vulnerable to say your self-worth was low and you didn't do the things to invest in yourself. You actually knocked yourself off at your knees. That's hard. I mean, self-esteem, self-worth, loving yourself. We know it's a pathway, usually when we find a purpose greater than ourselves, we can do it. You found that with caddying.
Yep.
It's a fascinating thing that you've earmarked to. We know of another guy who's done something like that, where caddying is helping, investing in youth, and you see people who serve in whatever way. If we can find something bigger than ourselves, there's a quote that I live by, and it was a quote that I, at a time when I was in grad school and I was struggling, which was, if you feel helpless, help someone. If you have no hope,
paying it forward. Yeah,
pay it forward, because there's always something that we can do to share. And while we may be hurting, that we still have a gift to give, and that's where self-worth has to come from.
Yeah, I mean, just get some positive interactions under your belt. Just keep snowballing good interactions, because when you're feeling sad or down on yourself, rather, it's hard to get those positive interactions because you're not smiling, you look frustrated or whatever, and especially maybe if you're in a bad relationship. I've had a few of those. It's just, there's so many things in our world that contribute to negative self-worth, and there's just not really a ton that contribute to loving yourself anymore. So I would say that they need to, you got to really examine who you're surrounding yourself with. That is huge. I wish I could have done a better job of that when I was a kid, and in my early days as a pro. But I mean, there's just so many factors that go into it. Having a good team around you, or just support system, being honest, like being able to talk about the hard things, occasionally, and just fine. But you're right. The paying it forward thing is huge, because, if you can just make one person smile, that's going to positively affect your day.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to text you, Monkey Pod. Please go have some dinner on me.
Cool.
And go enjoy it. Go. I think they always have like a caddy deal there too. So just make sure you tell them.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Yeah, certainly will.
So just,
either way, I'm going.
It's good. Pizza's incredible. Fish is incredible. My favorite thing about going there is they're like, this is what we caught this morning. I mean,
yeah, it's so good.
It's so good there. So
enjoy the purest protein ever. I lived in the Caribbean for a while, so I can't wait to go try some of that fresh fish.
I mean, the island, to me, Maui is the place where I recharge my soul. If I could go there 2 or 3 times a year, I would. I mean, it's just the Caribbean and things like that. It's just something about the water for me does it, and enjoy the hell out of it, and go get one with the world there. It's so powerful.
I will. It's a nice United to Denver and then straight down. It's actually a lot easier to get there than I was expecting. I was thinking I was going to have to go to like whatever, Atlanta, and take a direct or something, but shockingly decent and affordable to get there. Maybe not back, but yeah, I'm going to have fun, and I appreciate the recommendation.
Are you guys just doing a one over, or are you doing Sony? You doing Sony?
They haven't told me yet, and I don't think I certainly would love to go to Waialae. I love Seth Rayner's, but they haven't told me yet. I don't think he's a big fan of Sony. I think but he loves Palm Springs, and he's keeping his batteries charged for the big ones when they start. So I'm pretty sure he'll skip Sony, unfortunately for me. But
yeah, well, maybe you can go Monday.
Yeah, no kidding. Now that would be something. You think there'd be any media attention around that? Jeez.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
None.
Well, listen, you go have a great one. Safe travels. Thanks for sharing your story, and continue to pound that stone. We need people to understand that listen, we need to be connected to one another. The way we do it is serve one another. The way we do that is to understand what we have to give. And
yeah, it's okay to not be okay sometimes. Life's going to be hard. I promise.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Willie, and we'll talk soon. I'll see you out on the West Coast.
Thank you, Doc.
You got it, brother. Talk soon. Thanks so much.
All right, cool. Yes, sir.
So great openness from Will, and known him a long time, and rooting for him every day. And the ability to be a caddy as a former player is brilliant, the way he sees things. So amazing.
Guys, people's calling.
So, all right. Well, listen, you guys have a great one. I'm on my way to Pasadena, and hope everybody has a great one. That's it for Mental Game Live.